Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hope. My name is Tammy Lynn Connors, and this is my podcast and YouTube channel, helping other people evolve. Today, I have the pleasure of having Danielle Bigsby on here with me. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great too. It's so great to have you on here. So a little backstory. I interviewed Dean Swift a few months ago. I had met him through Facebook, and there was an event in Detroit, and it was a bunch of authors basically, and all these books. So I was like, well, I'm only an hour from Detroit. I'm gonna go ahead and run up there and check it out. And I met Danielle there. So we chatted a little bit, and she shared a little bit of her story of hope. And I thought, man, I want to have her on my podcast. So for those of you that do not know what hope is, my mission and vision with Hope is to help people who are struggling. I like to hear stories of hope. I know that so many people go through so many struggles in life, but so many people get to a strength. So there's people at home sitting in their room or sitting on their couch, and they just feel like they're all alone in their struggle. And when you hear Danielle's story of an unfortunate struggle, but fortunately you hear strength, I hope that it will get you out of bed that day or off the couch that day, and you can open the door and be like, okay, I can get through this. So Danielle, I know a little bit about your story, not a whole lot. So I guess let's just start. You live in Nashville, Tennessee. Have you always lived in Nashville?
I was actually born and raised in Nashville, but I now live in Gallatin, Tennessee, which is about 30 minutes away from Nashville.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you've been a Southern girl for a long time.
Long time.
Yes, I love Tennessee. I was just down there in Gatlinburg a few weeks ago, and I always love being down there. And the people in Tennessee are just they're kind. They're just kind people. They're really nice and, ma'am and all that. So yes,
Southern hospitality.
That Southern hospitality is definitely there. So I know that you had said that, I believe that you had a nephew that was shot and killed.
Yes, my nephew H.O.P.E Bigsby was murdered when he was 14 years old back in 2010. Just a baby the night before he was scheduled to start high school. Of course, like typical teenagers, he was hanging out with his friends, having that last summer moment, last party with the friends. And unfortunately, that ended up being his last moments. He is my oldest nephew, and we just never thought it would. I know many families affected by gun violence, but just never thought it would be us. Yeah. And to this day, his murder is still very much unsolved. We have no clues, no ideas, no leads, nothing. And it's a tragedy my family is still struggling with. Yes. We struggle very much. August 11th is the day he was murdered. October 16th is his birthday, and we have a very, very hard time on those days as well as holidays. And my son favors my nephew quite a bit. Oh, really? And he was a baby when my nephew was murdered. He was only 2 years old. And so to look at him sometimes, I look at my baby and definitely love my baby, but I also see so much in my nephew. And so it's like a beautiful, blissful moment. It's almost like my nephew came back in a way.
Yeah. Jeez. And then, so your son was 2 at the time, you said, that had to be, was it your brother or sister's child? That doesn't really matter.
My oldest sister's child, yes.
Your oldest sister's child, yeah. So since then, you've been doing some advocacy about that, correct?
Yes. So I've been writing books since, I was about 12 years old. I just never published anything. And around 2015, I had a dream, and my nephew came to me in the dream and said, "What are you doing with my story? What are you doing with my legacy? What are you doing with it?" And I was like, trying to cope with it. Mm-hmm. And like, there's so many more like me. We're more than a hashtag. Yes. And from that moment on, Hood Love was born, which is my anti-gun violence volumes, in which I share gun violence in its realest, rawest, most transparent form. I show it from the victim's perspective, from the family's perspective, from the suspect's perspective. You get gun violence as raw as it gets.
Yeah. So that's what inspired you to start writing, huh? I mean, to write actual books.
To write about gun violence.
Yeah.
Now, actually, what inspired me to start publishing, I have a brother who passed away of natural causes. And I used to always dedicate poems and poetry to loved ones on their birthdays and holidays. And he was like, you should write a book. And I was like, I have no idea where to start. We're not doing that. I just keep doing this. And so July of 2014 was the last time we had a family get together. And he was like, you really should write a book. And I was like, I don't know where to start, brother. I'm okay. I'm good with this. And he passed away 2 months later. And I made it my mission to honor the vision he saw for my life. He passed away September 2014, and my very first book was published and released January 16, 2015.
Wow.
And I've been going strong ever since. If he saw this dream for me, then it had to be for me.
So good. And the thing is that you just said that, and like your brother said you need to do this, and then you said your nephew came to you in your dreams, and then you published your book. So I mean, that was almost like God was like, hey, listen Danielle, this is your purpose, this is what you need to do, you know.
And
so,
it has been an interesting journey, to say the least.
Yes.
I have been traditionally published once.
Okay.
And I'm a big, if I can do it myself, I'm gonna do it myself. So being traditionally published, I won't, for sake of any future issues, list that publisher. But what I will say is I asked this publisher, for you to be getting a cut off of my hard work, what are you doing for me that I can't do for myself? Yeah. And she was like, I'm hiring an editor. I know how to do that. I'm hiring a graphic designer. I know how to do that. I'm publishing with Create Space. I know how to do that. I'm promoting it on social media. Well, I was already doing that before meeting you. So you're getting a 45% cut for what? And so in learning that, I was signed to a 3-book deal. And I told them after my 3rd book, I would no longer resign. Okay. Well, I learned the business side of book publishing that day, because I was told, we don't want your 3rd book and you're released from your contract immediately. It's null and void. And you won't make it without me. That was November 17th, 2015. I released the book the next day. Granted, it didn't have page numbers. Granted, it was not formatted, but it was my way of saying I won't be stopped. Good for you. And on New Year's Eve of 2015, which was 2 days after Hood Love released, he called and asked me to resign. And said, I knew you had something in you. And my response to her was, that's God's confirmation that I'm doing what I need to do. So no, I won't resign. I wish you the best, but I'm on the right path and I'll go this way forward. And I've been independent ever since. Yes, that's awesome. And you just have this, when I met you in Detroit, I immediately, well, Dean introduced us, but I immediately knew that we had some kind of, that same, I guess, feelings in life, about go-getters and helping people, because that's what your books are doing, and I love that you said when you write your books, you do it from the victim, the suspect, the family, and everybody that's involved, because in anything, and I talk about this a lot in addiction because I'm in recovery, but it doesn't just affect the addict, it's the entire family. And so I'm sure that, your sister, your mother, your entire family goes through such a process all the time with your nephew, and especially not knowing, who did it. Well, even because I didn't just write about my nephew, I brought in 5 other victims in the original Hood Love. And so some of their cases were solved or were in the court process. In the original Hood Love, every one of the victims, the very first Hood Love, was related to me in some form or fashion. So I actually wrote about what it was like to be in the courtroom and have to relive
Mm,
the whole murder.
yeah.
What it's like to look at their child and see them all over again.
Mhm.
Um, there's so many layers to gun violence. There are tons of layers. It affects the loved ones, the children, the community, the school,
Mhm.
the teachers, everyone that was impacted by that person's life, it touches. And
Yeah.
those who didn't even know the person, it still touches them in a sense, because if they were very popular or left a legacy, people still talk about them.
Mhm.
So you learn about that victim through the stories that are still shared about them. And I
Yeah.
wanted to not reduce those victims to just a hashtag.
Mhm.
That's what Hood Love was about. I don't want to hear I miss you. I don't want to hear I wish they were here. With what happened to them, how is it propelling you toward your goals to do what they couldn't do because they're no longer here?
Oh, that's good. It's good. It's kind of crazy that we're talking about this today because, and I didn't coincide these at all until just now when we were talking. My really good friend in April of 2020 was shot and killed by her ex-husband to be. He shot her 14 times and killed her. And today's her birthday. And so when we were talking just now, I thought about it because I sat through the courts. They just had the trial this year. And when you were talking about that and the people that it affects, you're right. Like it didn't just affect me and her kids and her mother and her father, that whole community. And I thought about even the jurors sitting there, how much that affects everybody,
And
and it,
even the suspect's family,
yes,
because
oh, yes,
oftentimes they didn't choose that path for their loved one. They
that's
didn't
right,
tell them, hey, go out and shoot somebody.
right.
So a lot of times they are the target of anger.
Yes.
But I've been on both sides of gun violence. I've been
Mhm.
on the side where we've lost loved ones, and I've been on the side where someone took someone's loved one.
Hmm.
So I felt it from both ends. And it's a hard stick to carry. However, you got to tell that other side too,
Yeah.
because sometimes the suspect didn't mean to take the life.
Right, right.
And that side needs to be shown, because gun violence is an epidemic that affects everyone, whether we want to look at it that way or not.
Mhm.
And one choice can have lifelong consequences.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And like you said, I mean, in my circumstance with my friend, I mean, he definitely meant to do that. But there are times that, and I feel like, I guess, especially when I see it in the Toledo area and I just hear like somebody else was shot and killed, shot and killed. It's almost like I remember back, now I'm 56. So I remember back in the day where it was fights, like fist fights, like people
Yeah.
fought each other. And now it's nothing for somebody to pull out a gun and just shoot somebody.
I would never say, would be an advocate for violence. Of course not.
Right,
But
me either.
those days of fist fighting, why do we have to resort to killing someone
Yes, yes,
as a
yeah,
means to ending a disagreement?
right.
And that's one of the things I wanted to look at. Now I take it a step further with Hood Love. I've even
Okay.
covered police gun violence.
Okay.
I've had a couple stories where the police were the ones who pulled the trigger, and that is still gun violence. It wasn't the easiest to write about. And was there some fear? Yes. Because I didn't want to be, the target of their rage because I
Mhm.
wrote about it.
Mhm.
But I felt like I would have been doing those individuals an injustice by not telling their stories as well.
Yes.
Especially when it happened in my community. So it directly impacted how I felt.
Mhm.
So I've covered all aspects of it, even as to how guns get into the community. I've covered that aspect too. So I probably wouldn't be the most liked advocate, but I feel like if you're gonna paint the picture, paint it from our perspectives and paint it raw.
Right, right. And the thing is that the picture needs to be painted, right? People need to hear, so for me, I honestly don't know. I mean, I know people get shot and killed. I know that all the things, right? But I've never lived it. So I don't know it. So to have somebody like you paint that picture so I can really feel it and see it, right? Because I think a lot of times in life, we hear things, right? And kind of walk away from it. But to really learn and know about it is important. And I think what you're doing is amazing because people need to hear the stories and know from coming from you. Like you said, you come from all aspects of it too. It's kind of like me with addiction. I was an addict, but so was my son's dad. So I lived that part. So I lived both parts, so I can share like, yeah, I know what it's like to be on that side and I know what it's like to be on this side. So I think that's important. And I haven't got a chance to read your books yet. I bought 3 of your books. I remember. I went to that book show. I had no idea what I was really going to. I knew Dean was going to be there with his book. That's what I knew. And I had already bought his book. So, one of his books. And then I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many books. I think I ended up buying 10 or 12 books while I was there. So many good authors. It's just amazing. So how many books have you written now?
15 plus.
Wow. That's amazing. 15 plus books since 2015, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is 7 years. So that's a lot. That's awesome. And to think that you said to yourself, no, I'm good just writing poetry to the family and things like that. To know that you had 15 books inside of you. That's amazing.
It's really interesting because I am the product of foster care. Okay. I am a foster care child. It wasn't totally a neglect situation. It was more of I was a teenager who thought she knew everything. And that teenager ended up in state's custody. And I went in when I was 13, and when I came out, I was 19. And it was never a case of I couldn't go home. It's just I was in my own way. I thought I knew everything. And so I rebelled a lot. I was adopted as a kid. So I had a lot of questions. Why am I adopted? Why didn't my biological mother want me? Why didn't they keep me? And I later learned I'm one of 7. So I really had questions like, you mean you had 7 of us and I'm the only one you didn't keep? I later learned there were 3 of us that were not kept. But there were 2 of those 3 that were went back for. I never was. And so it caused a lot of problems with self-image, a lot of problems with, self-esteem. Why am I not worthy enough for my mother to love me? So I had a real chip on my shoulder. And once I came out of foster care, I graduated valedictorian of the high school at the group home. And when I left out of there, school was always my thing. I always buried my head in a book because it was my escape. It was my way away from the world. Now, some of the books I was reading at the time, I probably should not have been reading. But I got a hold to some urban fiction, Zane. I was probably a teen at that time, and it developed my writing to a certain extent. But I used it as an escape. And so once I graduated, I went on to college and I got a degree in massage therapy. And I knew I liked learning, but it was interesting because I got a degree in massage therapy, never used it. I got a degree in administrative assistant with an accounting emphasis, never used it. And I got a bachelor's in business administration with a concentration in entrepreneurship. And I'm actually using it.
Using that one.
And I'm now in for my master's. So we're taking it all the way. But to be that child and to look back now, and I owe a lot to those adults that were in that foster care system, because when I gave up on me, they didn't give up on me. They pushed me to theater arts and performing poetry. And ultimately, one of them told me I would be writing books. And I was like, ha, y'all funny. And so when she saw me about a year ago, she was like, what are you doing now? And I was like, I'm writing books. And she was like, I told you so many years ago.
Yeah.
And to see that that confirmation has always been over my life, but finding out who I was a real journey, because when I came out the foster care system, I wanted to reconnect with my biological family. And I ultimately did. And while I love them dearly, I just didn't fit in.
Mm.
And it resulted in a lot of me dumbing myself down so that I would be accepted. And in doing so, I hated what I saw because it didn't allow me to flourish. I felt caged. So for years, I lived in a depression. I'm a single mother of 4. And I couldn't be myself because I just wanted them to accept me. And over the last maybe 2 to 3 years, I really realized I didn't need them to accept me. I just needed to accept me. I was picked out to stand out. And that realization has really allowed me to accept myself and flourish. In Detroit,
I'm gonna write down picked out to stand out. I like that. That is good. I'm writing that down right now.
I got myself into some legal trouble, dealing with guys. I've never really had my father in my life. So searching for the love of a man kind of led me down some dark paths. And I ended up in some legal trouble. And that is where I think the transition really began, because I published my first 2 books in 2015. However, I wasn't able to take my craft anywhere to 2016. In 2012, I got a felony charge and I was placed on probation for the first time. First time ever in my life. First ever getting in trouble. And it really grounded me. The process that I had to go through to regain my freedom was both mental. Well, it was actually mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. I literally had to hit rock bottom. And so for 4 years, I was on probation day for day, never got in trouble, but they made me walk that probation down day for day. I literally had to go see my probation officer the day before I was set to get off probation, and I had never violated. They were very hard on me. And originally I was mad and I couldn't understand. And I met my godmom in 2012, and she kind of took me under her wing. And she explained to me, this is the breaking down of the old you so that the new you can really be born. I remember not having a car. I used to have to walk to my probation's office because if I didn't make it, they were going to violate me. I remember begging for rides. I remember the entire process just being grueling, very grueling. And then I remember the last year, I was like, I wrote a book. I got an opportunity to go do a book show. It's in Atlanta. Can I please get a permission to go out of town? And they would not grant it. They would not grant it. And I was like, I'm really doing something positive. Look, here's the book. Please let me go. No, they would not grant it. So I remember August 16th, 2016, I finished my probation. And October 8th, 2016, I did my first book event. I was nervous, extremely nervous. No one would have known it though. And at that event, I did extremely well for it to be my first book event. Many of my readers and supporters at the time told me I was a natural, and I just couldn't see what they saw because I was scared shitless. And 2 weeks later, I did a red carpet movie premiere in North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, where I had my own radio show at the time. And my godmom said, do you not see the blessings now? It had to be knocked down to be picked up.
So good. It's
And
true.
so from there, I went, gosh, Maryland, Indianapolis. I started going everywhere with the books.
Yeah.
And so I started to soar. But sometimes the process can get a little grueling, and things started to happen. I put out a book in 2017 called From a Rock to a Diamond. It was my fictitious autobiography.
Okay.
And I don't want to say it tanked, but what happened was it wasn't written well enough, and the right people didn't hold me accountable, and it broke my spirit. And I remember crying on Facebook Live. I literally cried my heart out. And to see me that broken, so many of my readers was like, hey, you got this. And I took nearly 2 years off the road. I did no book events. I didn't really come out of my shell. I was broken. And I was like, I'm done writing. Secretly, I said I was done.
Yeah.
And every time I tried to quit, it was like God said, you can't. A new story would hit me. And I was like, I'm trying to put the pen down. Why can't I?
Yeah.
And God said, you hadn't done what I needed you to do. And so in 2020, I went back on the road. And I did book events. I remember I was catching the mega bus, the Greyhound. And as a single mother, finance was not always there. I literally had to rob Peter to pay Paul to do it. And I would have to leave my children with babysitters. But I remember my village saying, go, just go, just keep going. And I met Dean in 2017. And I was in Maryland, and I really had at the time a bad knack for wearing my feelings on my sleeve. And someone really upset me. And so I was outside, and over I always say our mutual love of Black and Milds. We were outside, and he was looking for a lighter, and I had one. And he was like, hey, what's wrong with you? And I was like, nothing. He said, you can lie to anybody else, but you can't lie to me. I was like, I don't even really know you. Right. And he read me like a book. And then he shared some advice with me. And I looked at him and I said, only my brother that passed away could do that. And I said, he sent you as my big brother in this industry to protect me. Take me under your wing and to treat me as a little sister. And since that day, that has been my big brother. I love him dearly. He is spoiled. He can get anything from me. He is my big brother. But he really looks out for me, and I look out for him as well. And it's our mutual love of books, hustle, and just living life to its fullest extent, because we've seen the worst life had to give. Right. And so going to Detroit, this was my 3rd year going to Detroit. Okay. And interestingly enough, usually I had to take the mega bus or the Greyhound or try to figure it out. And there was once a comment made about the bus rides, and it really kind of upset me. And he told me, don't worry about it. And the last 2 years, I flew to Detroit. Okay. And so I took a moment to take in just where God had taken me from. From riding buses to trying to figure it out to you flying now. Yeah. And you ain't having to beg for the money to fly. He's put you in a much better position. Yeah. And so when I got there this year, I've always sold books and done pretty well. But this year was different. I sold out. I sold every book I had. It's awesome. And it was the smile from Dean across from me that said, if anybody deserved it, you did.
Nice.
And so nobody saw it, because once I got back to my hotel, I shouted my way in that hotel room and just had to give God his praise, because
Yeah.
he's brought me a mighty, mighty, mighty long way.
Yes.
And so and this is very personalized, but I'm gonna share this because I don't know who on your podcast needs to hear it.
Okay.
This last year, I attempted suicide.
Oh.
And I was going through some really dark things. And my brother's spirit sat on my bed and said, your words have the power to save you. And it originally, I thought he was speaking verbally, but it wasn't my verbal words that were going to save me. I wrote my first affirmations journal after telling Dean I was going to do it, called Colorful Expressions. And it was over 380 affirmations.
Oh my goodness.
My brother said, read your words. They have the power to save you. And I realized this journey was not just for everybody else to see, but it was for me to see.
Yeah.
That the little girl that felt like she wasn't wanted, that felt like she wasn't enough, God took her to show the world that he's more than enough to do something with her. And so I understood now that this isn't my journey. It's just his journey through me. And it's to show somebody else, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what happened to you in your past. He can take the remnant and make it royalty.
Wow.
And that has been my journey, to see what he's done with me, through me, and for me. Yeah. I couldn't put into words. Yeah. And naturally, I can be honest, when I came home, spiritually, I was attacked in every way possible.
I bet.
But I looked at that with this. As the dominoes fall, they're only setting you up for a greater blessing.
Yes, yes.
So as much as I wanted to get upset when the dominoes started to fall, there's a greater blessing in place.
Yes, yes. I love what you just said, especially, I'm so glad that you're still here. And you listened to your brother's spirit when he came and talked to you, because, and I was going to talk to you a little bit about if you did affirmations. Kind of funny that you said that, because I was going to ask you about that, because, you know, I know when I was growing up, I was that outcast, you know, I was bullied, all of the things. And I never felt I was good enough for anything ever, you know, and the same thing. And my affirmations and my change in my life has just happened in the last 5 years, honestly. You know, I've been sober for 18, but I wasn't where I'm at now. It's such a difference. And I was going to ask you if you do affirmations, and now I know that you.
I have a favorite one. And it's, I was what I was. I am what I am. And I'm okay with both of them, because my past does not define me.
That's good. That's good. I'm going to have you send that to me in Messenger, because I'm going to put that as part of our lead into your podcast, because it's so good. But that's, you know, and I think it's important, because when you think about all the things that we go through in life, and we all go through so much in life, you know, and how much do you go through it alone? Right? That you think that you're alone. I was just talking to a friend yesterday, and, you know, we talk in Alcoholics Anonymous and things like that. They talk about the phone, you know, pick up the phone, call somebody. And it's like that in anything in life, but this phone probably weighs 5,000 pounds when you go to pick it up, just to call somebody. Now I'm getting really emotional here, just to call somebody and just say, hey, I need someone to talk to. And it's like, this thing weighs tons. But the person on the other end, like if you called me or I called you, I know that you'd be there to listen, but it's just us getting over and out of our own way in order to have somebody help us. And I believe wholeheartedly with when you talked about your nephew coming into your dream, and when you talked about your brother, I mean, you were getting ready to commit suicide, like, your brother was like, oh, no, you're not. And God said, this is the only way I can get to her, because she's not going to pick up the phone and call somebody. Right. And so I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I think that people live in such dark spaces. And especially after, the last 2 years have just been dark for so many people. And we live in those dark spaces, and to know that's why I do all this. We're not alone. You're not alone out there, and for you to share that with us, I really appreciate that, because it means a lot.
And I also say, look past the facade, because everyone saw me dropping books. Everyone saw me smiling with my children, but had no idea I was in that space.
That's right.
And it's the nonverbal cues that I gave that were ignored. When I go silent, it's time to worry.
Yeah.
When I disappear off social media, and when I say disappear, if I'm not even at least posting every few days, it's time to be concerned. And I think that was a wake-up call for a lot of people in my life, because they didn't realize I was in that place. And it's really easy to get there. Being a single mother is not easy in the least bit, and I'm a single mother to 4. And so my plate is often full. I'm a single mother to 4. I'm in school. I'm working a 9 to 5. I'm running 2 businesses. I am the go-to for the family when they need something done. So I wear a lot of hats. A whole lot of hats. And I can make it look really easy. But it's always okay to check on that strong friend too.
That's right. I was just going to say, my friend, that's one of the strongest people that I know. And that's one of the things that she'll post it like randomly, like, make sure you check on your strong friends. Make sure you check on your strong friends, because we are strong out there to the world, but we walk in our house and we shut our bedroom door, and the strongness isn't always there. Sometimes and it's like you said, I was saying the go-to for everything, and just, it's hard. It's hard. And we do the best with painting that smile on our face, and everything's good. And I say this to people too, when they talk to me, and they'll say something about me being on social media a lot. And I'm like, listen, if you don't see me on there, somebody better be checking on me, because there's something going on,
The strongest thing I learned in the last year after attempting the suicide was that it's okay to say no. And it's okay to put me first.
That's right. That's right. It's okay.
I can't help you if I can't help me.
That's right. That's right. And I've talked about this. I actually did a podcast talking about this, and you'll agree with me on this, I'm sure, because it's okay to say no. And it's not being selfish. It is putting up a boundary that you need to have, because if you continually say yes, 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 there's nothing left of you. Like you just said, if I don't have anything to give, I'm drained, and I had a friend of mine that she would say this. She was like, I'm going to go get my hair done, and I'm not being selfish. And I'm like, why would you say you're not being selfish getting your hair done? She's like, well, I feel like if I do something for myself, it's selfish. And I said, no, that's setting a boundary to say that it's okay to do things for yourself. And it's okay to say no. And it's okay to know your worth and all of the things that go with all of that. So I'm glad that you said that. It's okay to say no. And people need to know that,
And diminishing self helps no one.
That's right.
So I used to apologize for living my dreams.
Yes.
And now I live out loud. I celebrate every victory, the small ones, the big ones, because it's okay to clap for me.
That's right.
I've learned it's okay to clap for me.
That's right.
And secretly, they may not clap with me, but they're definitely watching.
That's right.
So
I agree with that one too. Right.
I've learned it's okay to, I gave so much of my life taking care of everyone else. And now I literally live out loud. I make no apologies for traveling the United States. I make no apologies for being at the book events and loving life, because I've earned that.
That's right.
I've seen the worst life had to give, and I beat it.
Yes.
So naturally, I'm celebrating now.
That's good. That's good. I never asked you, how old are your kids?
I have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, a soon-to-be 13-year-old, and an 8-year-old.
Oh my goodness. Boys,
And
girls?
they keep 3 girls, 1 boy.
Oh, goodness. Are
They
the
keep
girls,
me extremely busy.
I bet, are the girls the teenagers?
Um, 2 of the girls are teenagers, and my son is also a teenager.
Oh,
And my
yeah.
son is an athlete. So from track
Okay.
to basketball to football, he keeps me on the go.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And those teenage girls, I know how that can be.
Oh, yes. But actually, 2 of my children are now authors, and we're working on the other 2 becoming authors.
Awesome.
Because I was the curse breaker in the family.
Good,
And
good.
so now I'm setting them up to fully succeed.
Yes. They all enjoy writing too then?
They do. My
Good.
oldest one is a little reluctant. She doesn't want to be like mom, but is
Mhm.
like mom without trying.
Yeah.
She's amazing, very talented writer. But she
Awesome.
wants to branch out on her own and,
Sure.
publish on her own. So I definitely told her there's 2 ways to do it. You can sign under mommy and we can show you how to do it, or time is money. I can charge you as a client and teach you how to do it.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
And show you what the business is really like. But I told her either way, you'll ultimately step in those shoes because it's in your blood.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's so good to hear. I actually, next week, I think is when it's going to the printer, I have my first chapter in a book coming out. So I'm
Feel
excited
free
about
to
it.
tag me in it when it comes out. I'm gladly purchase.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about it. And I've been the same thing, been told all my life, right? You need to write, you need to write, you need to write. Well, I finally wrote, I have a chapter in the book and I'm editing my own book, but yeah, so I'm just super excited to meet you and to talk with you and learn more about you. I knew that when I went up there, you know, that Saturday to Detroit, that like I said, I had no idea what I was walking into. And it was, I wanted to stay all day. I couldn't because I had to go to a graduation party, but I loved just the energy and all of the authors. You guys are just all amazing people that are out there. Just really, I mean, the stories might be, you know, some may be fiction, some may be nonfiction, but you're just all out there trying to help people, really, you know, however it is through reading.
We're
Yeah.
all promoting literacy.
Yes.
So the worst slogan for me to hear is I don't read. You kind of
Yes.
killed me as an author when you said I don't read, because that means I can pretty much do anything to you and you wouldn't know because you didn't read the contract. So
yeah.
you know, I am big on pushing reading. And so I cross all genres. I have poetry, I have advocacy, I have erotica, I have children's, I have young adult. I don't like to box myself in. I like to live outside the box. I say my brand is real, raw, and maybe even nasty a time or two. But I like to live outside the box. And they call me the resident wild child.
Wild child. Nice. I like
I
it.
believe in pushing reading because there's so much in a book. And sometimes when you need that mental vacation and you can't leave home, all you got to do is open a book.
That's good. That's good. So now where can people find your books?
All of my books are on Amazon. I'm currently working on a new website to where they can be ordered from there. Currently, I am out of paperbacks. I'm in the process of ordering new ones. I really had a big sellout in Detroit, so that was huge. You know,
Good.
I was expecting, but not expecting.
Yeah.
So I definitely have to order the whole catalog. 15 books, that's a lot of catalog to order.
That is a lot.
But they can all be found on Amazon.com, either under Danielle Bigsby, or if you're looking for the erotica, it is under my pen name, Nasty D. That is nasty with an I, not a Y.
Okay.
But they can all be found there. I love reviews. If you like the book, I definitely love your review. If you didn't like the book, I still love your review because I feel like as an author, I can always learn and grow from it. And it helps me. If I improve from one book to the next, then I'm doing what I need to do as an author. So they can all be found on Amazon, definitely. And sometimes I do book giveaways. So follow me on social media at Arthur Danielle Bigsby. Sometimes I make them free for the day and you can get a free book.
Awesome.
especially the hood love. So I often make those free, the ebooks from time to time, just
Okay.
because of the love for advocacy and the
Yes.
love of bringing an end to this wild epidemic.
Yes, awesome. Well, I appreciate you getting on here with me today. I always tell my guests, you know, I call you my new friend. They're never a guest
Yeah,
anymore. We're just
definitely.
friends now. We're friends from when I walked up and met you and Dean said, this is my little sister. And I said, all right, here we go. And so I'm excited for your journey. And I always tell people, you know, I'd love to have you back on here in a few months just to see where things are at and, you know, how things are going for you. And I just appreciate you jumping on here for Danielle. I know your life is extremely busy, and, you know, taking the hour out to chat with us has been amazing. And so is there any last words you want to say to anybody?
Definitely.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Definitely. This was amazing. I love what you do. I love what you represent.
Thank you.
So feel free to tag me in anything.
Yes, I will for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for getting on here. Thank you everybody for getting on Hope today. I hope everybody has an amazing day. And remember, you're not struggling alone and you can get to your strength. Thank you so much.